Turn off the pets. Yeah, that's it. Are you frustrated that your videos are too quiet, distorted, or have too much background noise, and that it takes ages to clean up the audio and editing? If you're using OBS to record talking head videos in your home office, this video will help you achieve the best audio quality possible straight in the recording. We'll cover the basics you need to know. I'm not a professional audio engineer, and I record in my home office / bonus room. If that sounds like you too, keep watching to find out what works for me. Let's get started. Before we begin, this is not a video about microphones, technique, or acoustic environment, but let's just hit that briefly. 5 things. First, you can use either a USB microphone or an XLR microphone connected to a USB audio interface. It doesn't matter that much. Make sure the microphone is mounted on a stand or arm so it's isolated from noise like bumping your desk. Make sure it's properly connected to OBS so that you can see it as an available audio source in OBS and you're getting the signal. Turn off or move anything you can that's making noise around you. Pets, kids, TVs, fans, AC. Turn off the pets. Yeah, that's it. Make it as quiet as you possibly can. Use good microphone technique. If you don't know what that means, just do this. Place the microphone close to your mouth, but not in direct line with your breath. Mine is right here, just out of frame. That reduces plosives. Try to maintain a reasonably even speaking volume and avoid making noises like lip smacking, sniffing, or loud breathing. Getting everything right before it gets to your microphone makes your recording better and makes your post-recording work much easier. Next, you'll need to add whatever video sources you want, like your mirrorless camera using an HDMI to USB capture card, or your display. We're not talking about that today, so let's move on. Recording file type. I recommend the MKV file format. This does 2 cool things. First, if your recording stops for any reason, like a power outage or computer crash, your recording won't be corrupted, and you can still use whatever you got through before it stopped. Second, MKV supports multiple separate audio channels, so you can capture desktop audio or music or whatever else separately from your voice. Just turn the volume down or use closed back headphones so it doesn't spill over into your microphone. To ensure that all audio channels are captured simultaneously in the same file, you'll need to select the appropriate recording type in OBS. Go to Settings, Output, Recording, and here you want to select the MKV format. I'm recording right now, so it won't let me. Also select your the audio tracks you want to capture. I only want to capture 2, so I've just got 1 and 2 checked. Then go into the advanced settings and choose which audio sources to record to which tracks. So to do that, you come down to your audio source in here. Actually, you can select anywhere in here and click Advanced Audio Properties. That was a right click. Come in here, you should see your audio properties, and over here, this is where you record which sources record onto which tracks of your audio file. So I've got desktop recording into track 2, I've got mic 1 recording into track 1. Notice the other things over here, I've got all 3 of my sources as mono. I've got a sync offset for my microphone versus my video, which you can adjust because it's a little bit out of sync with the processing. And I have 6 decibels of gain dialed in here for my microphone before we even get to the filters. We'll talk about that later. So this gives you a video with multiple audio tracks that are separate when you import it into DaVinci Resolve for editing. That's huge. Now let's talk about audio filters. This is where the good stuff happens. For a basic setup, I recommend 4 filters: gain, expander or noise suppression, compressor, and limiter. That's it. You can do more if you want, but this will get you mostly where you need to go. Here's how to set them up in OBS. Gain is the amplification of the audio signal. So clipping occurs when the audio signal level exceeds the maximum limit that your hardware or software can handle, resulting in unrecoverable distortion. So it's really important to set the gain correctly at the beginning so that you don't clip. So set the gain correctly in the hardware level before the signal reaches the digital filters. A little bit too low is better than a little bit too high. You can always bring it up later. You can't recover distortion if it's clipped. If you're using a hardware XLR audio interface like I am, first set the hardware gain so you don't see any red clipping when you're speaking as loudly as you ever would for recording. Next, go into Windows, open Sound Settings, right-click on your little speaker down here, open Sound Settings, go to your input device. This is I'm using the SSL2 USB audio device. Go to Device Properties and make sure that the volume is turned up and that it's working. I just leave mine at 100%. Next, we want to go set the gain in OBS. And where I showed you that advanced audio property, first of all, under Advanced Audio Properties, you can set gain right here before you get to filters. So I've got 6 dB of gain right there because my source is relatively quiet. But then you can also go into the settings for the input source. So I'm going to show you, I'll walk you through step by step for each of the filters that I add. I'm going to do that. I'm going to add a new source right here, right click in sources, do add audio input capture. I'm going to basically duplicate my current mic setup. I'll mute it in a second so it doesn't cause problems, but I'll show you step by step how to set it up. So hit OK. Choose the device you want to record. In my case, it's this one. Choose OK. I'm just going to mute that on my system so that it doesn't mess up the audio for my record, but it's there and you can see that the levels are showing up. So if you'll see as I talk, the one that I'm actually recording it down here with the 6 dB of gain is coming up into the -10, -5 range. This one over here is a little bit quieter because I don't have that gain there. So let's go ahead and set that first. Advanced Audio Properties. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to change that to 6. Yours is going to be different. You have to figure out what it is for your setup. Then I can come over here, right click Audio Input Capture, choose Filters. I've got nothing in there right now. I'm going to add gain. Click OK. In my case, what I want is 5.5 dB of gain. Yours will be different. So if I hit close now, you can see what's happening is it's coming up as I talk. We're coming up to this high level up here. So that's probably getting into digital clipping as I speak. We're going to fix that later. Don't worry about digital gain staging in here right now. We're going to fix it. Start with a conservative setting and adjust as needed while monitoring your audio levels. Talk like you would for a recording. Watch the levels meter right here, as we've been talking about. For voiceover tracks and videos destined for platforms like YouTube, you want to see a little bit of yellow on this meter. Aim for peak audio levels while you're speaking to be above -15 dB and below -5 dB. I like to see it bouncing between kind of -10 and -5 as I talk. This range provides a good balance between audio clarity and dynamic range without risking distortion or clipping. Next is noise suppression or expanding. Add an expander or noise suppression filter to reduce background noise. An expander works by reducing the volume of quieter sounds, while noise suppression pretty aggressively removes unwanted noise. Choose the one that works best for your specific environment. I personally find the expander to be a little more gentle and natural sounding, and I have a relatively quiet environment that I'm recording in, but if you have a lot of background noise and you want to make sure you check that out, you want to just check the box and move on, pick noise suppression, and skip on to the next step. So expanders work by reducing the volume of quieter sounds in the audio signal, effectively lowering the background noise while maintaining the natural sound of the original audio. Expanders can sometimes sound better than noise suppression filters in certain environments because they're less aggressive and do not introduce digital artifacts or abrupt changes in the background sound level. When the audio signal level is above a certain threshold, it does nothing. However, when the signal level falls below this threshold, the expander begins to attenuate the audio, turns it down. The amount of attenuation is determined by the expander's ratio session. A higher ratio results in more aggressive noise reduction, while a lower ratio provides a little more subtle effect. To set up an expander for noise suppression in OBS, add an expander filter to your microphone source. By right-click the source, select Filters, and then click the plus icon. So here's my filters again. I'm going to click the plus icon, and choose Expander. Say OK. Adjust the threshold parameter. This determines the level at which the expander starts to reduce the volume of quieter sounds. Begin by setting the threshold slightly below your desired voice level. Monitor your audio, adjust it accordingly to find that sweet spot without affecting your voice too much. I find minus 30 dB to be a good starting point. Then you set the ratio. The ratio determines the amount of attenuation that is applied to the audio signal when it falls below the threshold. A higher ratio will be more aggressive, while a lower ratio will be more subtle. I'm going to leave it at 2:1. Configure the attack and release parameters. The attack time determines how quickly the expander responds to audio signals falling below the threshold, while the release time controls how long it takes for the expander to stop attenuating the audio once the signal level increases again. For voice applications, a fast attack time around 8 milliseconds or so, and a moderate release time around 150 milliseconds should work well. So let's do that. You can apply output gain, but I'm not going to. Leave this as RMS and hit close. And that's the expander. Now we're going to add a compressor filter to your microphone source. This filter helps even out your audio levels by reducing the volume of louder sounds relative to the volume of quieter sounds. When the audio signal level exceeds a certain threshold, the compressor starts to attenuate the audio by applying a specific ratio of reduction. For example, a 4:1 ratio means that if your input level exceeds the threshold by 4 dB, the compressor will reduce it so the output only exceeds the threshold by 1 dB. So add a compressor filter to your microphone source in OBS by right-clicking the source, selecting filters, and then selecting the plus icon. So here we'll do that again. Plus, choose compressor. Adjust the threshold parameter. The threshold determines the level at which the compressor starts to reduce the volume of the audio signal. So slightly below the loudest parts of your voice is ideal. I find minus 18 to be a good starting point, and that seems to be the default right here. Then you set the ratio parameter. The ratio is how much it reduces it. And the default of 10:1 and mine is way too much. I like to start around 4:1 and adjust it as needed to get the desired compression effect. It'll sound weird if you put it too high. Then configure the attack and release parameters. For voice applications like the expander, a fast attack time, I'm going to use 6 milliseconds, and a moderate release time, I'm going to use 150 milliseconds. Should work well. You can adjust the output gain parameter here. If you've compressed a lot, it'll make things a little quieter, so you can bring it back up. I don't need to. So I'm going to leave that alone. By using a compressor in your audio chain, you can achieve a more consistent and balanced audio level throughout your recording, making your voice easier to listen to, more comprehensible, and ensuring that it stands out clearly in your content. Final thing, we're going to add a limiter to the microphone source by right-clicking the source, selecting filters, plus, and then choosing limiter once more time. So plus, limiter, OK. This filter sets a maximum volume limit for your audio, ensuring that your recording never exceeds the set level. When the audio signal level surpasses the threshold, the limiter rapidly attenuates the audio signal, applying a high compression ratio, all generally considered infinity to 1. Puts a wall there. This ensures that the audio signal does not exceed the specified limit, thus preventing clipping and distortion. Address the threshold parameter. That determines the maximum level that the audio signal is allowed to reach, and you want to set that threshold to just below the point where clipping and distortion would occur. Common starting point is -2, and then the release setting of 60 milliseconds is fine. Ideally, your limiter never engages. It's mostly just there to protect against unexpected loud sounds. Finally, now you need to test your recording. So let's check your audio recording levels in DaVinci Resolve using Fairlight Analyze Audio Levels. I'll explain what audio standard to use and what target levels are good to aim for. So let's go over to DaVinci. So in DaVinci Resolve, the Fairlight page gives you a comprehensive set of tools for audio editing and mixing, including the ability to analyze audio levels. So analyzing audio levels helps ensure that your audio meets the standards and loudness requirements for various platforms like YouTube and streaming services. It makes it a better experience for your listeners. So open your project in DaVinci Resolve, add your test recording to a timeline, navigate to the Fairlight page by clicking on Fairlight down at the bottom. Then you can right-click on the audio and get a pop-up menu, and then choose Analyze Audio Levels. So this new window appears. Here, there's a lot of different audio standards. Choose this one. I've learned that from some professional audio engineer somewhere. I don't know why, but that's what I use. Choose ITUR BS.1770-4 and click Analyze. DaVinci Resolve will analyze the selected audio clip and display the results in the window. For most online video platforms like YouTube, you're good to aim for a true peak of around -1 dB, decibels true peak, to ensure that there's no clipping or distortion, and an integrated loudness of somewhere between -14 to -16 LUFS. That's loudness units relative to full scale, for consistent perceived loudness across different devices and playback systems. If your audio levels are close, you're good to go. If you're way off, say your loudness is way too quiet or way too loud, you should go back to OBS and adjust your settings to make a new test recording and recheck it in DaVinci. By analyzing and adjusting your audio levels in DaVinci Resolve, you can ensure that your audio meets the necessary standards for your platform and provides a consistent, enjoyable listening experience for your audience. And that's it. By getting everything set up in OBS, you'll have a solid audio chain that will give you good quality audio directly in your recording, and it will save you lots of time in editing later, and a lot of frustration as well. Take care.